That's us. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Everybody muted?
Yeah, there.
There you go.
I couldn't get the button. I have 3 screens. It's hard sometimes.
Well, welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. I was just doing a little cleaning in the office. Let me do something here. Let me stop the share. There we go. I was doing a little cleaning in the office, and can anybody tell me what this is?
A yard
I
sign?
remember these. What is this, Shauna?
It's a yard sign.
Okay.
It's a yard sign.
A yard sign. Okay, so when is that used?
When you list a property.
I believe that's used when you get a new listing. And it kind of goes with this. Does anybody remember these?
Sign writers.
That's what you do when you have a new listing. You actually have an open house. So I just want to remind everybody, we've got plenty of these. We've got plenty of these signs. And they're all ready for you to use.
Yeah, we have some in Vancouver too.
I know you have a lot. You should have a lot in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So,
some of them are being used, so that's good.
Yeah. So we got plenty of signs. Plenty of signs. All right. All right, let's go to the agenda.
We have like an array of colors too. From start to
I know. Did I get this shared? Yeah, I got this shared. And let me get my people back. And let me open the chat box. Feel free to chat. Good morning. Good morning, Nias. Everybody's here. All right, February 7th. The social media blog is kind of a recruiting blog. The brand we want to see flourish is yours. And that's referring to the fact that it's your business. And Century 21 is more focused on that than ever, especially with the Moxie and the Moxie websites, that they've now given you total control over your own web presence and your own business. So that's the message for today. And hopefully you're off to a fast start so far. We're seeing some really good signs, some really hopeful signs. More listings, more transactions coming, and we're just starting into February. So, you know, hopefully that continues through February and we have a really good start to the year. So what is the state of the market going to be in the first quarter? And it appears that with interest rates slowly coming down, lots of buyers on the market, Those of you that are working on taking listings are going to have a really good time because there should be multiple offers coming in again in the first quarter of the year. And that's how it probably should work because we still have low inventory. The buyers come back, there's low inventory, we're going to have multiple offers. So get ready for that. Get polished up on that system, which everybody should be an expert at. But what happens in real estate is cyclical. As we've talked in the past, you know, there are good points and there are bad points. There's highs and lows when it's cyclical. But here are some thoughts to help us navigate this moment. If your activities are production-based, then they will be positive. There's nothing more fun or positive than making real progress and making money. So all of your activities, everything that you do, make sure it is production-based. And it's interesting to see how our activities have changed. Back in the 1970s, 1950s, 60s, 70s, they had rotary phones. There was no such thing as an iPhone. There was no such thing as most of the devices that you and I use for speed and efficiency today. But if you wanted to prospect and you wanted to sit there and use a rotary phone for hours on end, you could, and you did. The other option was really simply going out and knocking on doors around a listing for sale that you had, which is still a preferred method, probably the best method of meeting and talking to people. There was no Vulcan 7 or other software to provide us with great leads through owners, expireds, and so forth. I wouldn't say great leads, but it's true that the activities today are wide and varied. But think about the activities that you're involved in getting the leads and transactions over the course of the next 30 days and through the month of March. Because the activities that we're involved in, if they're production-based, are going to be very positive. We have to take action. We have to pick up the phone in this market more than ever. Boy, the internet leads, when the buyers dried up last year, no internet leads, there were essentially no methods but the traditional methods of working your sphere of influence, or working around a listing, or working a farm and calling and door knocking. There was nothing else. Technology failed us because technology is so focused on trying to attract buyers, and it just failed. So those who did well, especially in our company, were the people who had a good sphere of influence and were able to work that. We have to put ourselves in motion, taking action with the activities we have because of the skills we've developed and the mindset strength that we have. And finally, real estate is a discipline-oriented business. The people with the highest level of discipline always have the best chance because the discipline is the routines that we have to follow, the consistency of the action that we take to be more successful in the business we're in today. Let's take advantage of the new year, what's expected to be a great real estate market and has already shown signs of that, and treat your business like a business. All right, let's have a look at the production. And 28 listings in the company. Kuhn, what do you have that's exciting?
Things slowed down a little last week, but they're expected to, have more action next week. We have a couple scheduled closings by, Faye, Naif, and myself. We did have a new pending transaction by Michael Woods. He's an Idaho agent, but he is working a transaction in Ontario, Oregon. So congrats to Michael for going under contract.
Yes, we got to spend some time with Michael last week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. And talking to agents in the Oregon office, we have a couple new listings coming up either later this month or early next month. So we're very excited about that. So keep your eyes open for new listing announcements.
Okay. How are things in Washington?
Pretty good. We had a couple closings last week. I do think they happened before Wednesday, but I'm not sure if they were mentioned or not. So we had two, Stephen Burright and I each had a closing. We had new listings come on and already pending. Taj listed one and he is already pending with multiple offers, and it was I believe it was bid up. So things are looking pretty good here. We have listings that are coming back on the market that Kate went off. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. That went off. I had one client call me yesterday and they said they're ready to sell. They're willing to drop their price and just sell it. So I feel like we're gonna have some more. We're gonna have a very productive spring here.
Okay. Okay, that's
Oh,
good.
and Shauna closes one this week as well. Hers is going to close finally. Yay!
Nice.
Nice, good. Tell us about this.
It's a rental, and currently rented out, and I got a lot of activity right away, but then the renter had heart problems and went to the hospital and we stopped showings. I think at this point I can start showing again. I'm going to call those people that I canceled on, see if I can get them back over there. But the first two people who walked in didn't even go to the top floor because it was so messy. So I had a heart-to-heart with the seller, and we'll see if we can get that fixed. But the buyer or the renters will be out here by the end of March. So
Mhm.
if nothing else, we will I only put one photo on because I
Yeah.
don't want to take photos now. I don't want to spend the money for that. There's mattresses in the living room on the floor.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Good. They didn't even want to go upstairs.
mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough. Got to get it on the market. Not ready to show. That's a problem.
It's
But-
kind of like boosting them out of there too, because I feel like if he didn't put it on the market, that they might just keep stringing him along. They're not paying rent, that kind of thing. So
They're not paying rent, keeping it from selling.
Oh dear.
yeah, so they have been given notice. They have to leave.
Okay. Okay. And it looks like you have another one here. This is a nice looking house. That's a beautiful house.
Which one is that?
Oh, that's Taj, yeah.
Taj is one that went pending. That's right. Yeah, it's in Fisher's Landing. It's a very nice area. So yeah, it got a lot of attention right away.
Right. Okay.
His client is super happy.
Yeah.
And he negotiated some good commission on that. He did a great job.
Right.
Nice.
All right. Still have Idaho. Still have some good things in Idaho. Let's have a look. This is Nampa. Oh, I think we've seen this house. I have seen this house. If there's anything I haven't seen. Notice, Idaho. Oh yeah, we've seen this. We've seen this spread here. The lower 40 here. All right, very good. 28 listings in the company. That's a good start. And we'll get rid of those. Okay, so company events. We'll be going to Las Vegas, March 4th through 7th. They announced a guest speaker. It's Mike Ferry. How about that?
Yay.
For one.
So maybe we don't need to go twice and see him this year. We can just see him.
Yes.
And
Yeah. What is that? Killing two birds with one
Yeah.
stone right there.
That's right.
that's very convenient. It's very convenient. Okay. All right. What are the office level events? Kung, have you got anything going on?
Yeah, we have a lunch and learn scheduled, as always, the last Thursday of the month. Topic to be determined, but it will be presented again by Old Republic. And I believe it's going to be one of those hybrid ones where, you can log into a Zoom class, but also come into the office and join your fellow agents for lunch and CE.
Okay,
And
sorry,
we,
I have to ask again, do the Zoom attendees get the CE?
Yep, they just have to register.
How can you go
We'll
wrong?
send out a link soon.
Okay. Can't get easier than that.
Nope.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and you went on a property tour yesterday.
Yeah,
That
we
was
had a
a
great
blast.
time. Yeah, we went to different parts of the city. This time we went to the Selwood, Eastmoreland part of town. Saw some great properties, new construction, as well as resales. So it was fun seeing the different properties that were going on the market
Right.
in Southeast Portland.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And so we haven't made an announcement yet because we haven't finalized it, but the Vancouver office is moving. We were asked, not just us, we're asked to leave, but
The whole
That's
entire
why I-
building.
the whole building is being cleaned out of
Mhm.
realtors and everybody else who's in there.
Mostly attorneys, yeah.
Attorneys, yeah. I guess that building belongs to the county and the county has decided to use it for county purposes. And
Yep, they sure have.
so our time there is done. A very nice building. We had a good time while we were there. We were there for a few years.
Yes,
Forget how long.
it was pre-COVID.
That's right. That's right.
Pre-COVID, and then we moved upstairs, up here. It's lovely. But I'm excited about the new location. I think it'll be very useful for everybody. And once we get it finalized, I will tell everybody more about it.
Okay. Very good.
Nice.
Very good. Okay. All right. How's the market? You don't want to be the agent who just knows or just understands. You want to be the agent that can explain what's happening in today's market. I've got the regional MLS stats and I will post January as soon as they're available. The interest rates today, 6.6. And Americans will have to wait a little longer for the widely anticipated reductions in mortgage costs. Rates rarely budge this week, remaining within a tight range near the midway point between 6 and 7. The rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage decreased by a mere 0.06 percentage points to an average of 6.63 for the week ending February 1st. A 15-year fixed rate is now at 5.94. This week's near steady mortgage rates follow the announcement by the Federal Reserve that there would be no change to the federal funds rate, a move that was widely expected. So everything is going as expected. We're somewhere between 6 and 7. It looks like it's going to stay that way, but expected to go even further later this year. And that's all they're saying is later. Nobody wants to rock the boat. They don't want inflation to go any higher. That's what they're balancing right now. And so there are the trends. Was
I'm
that
sorry. Oh, well, I feel like that is going to help us with getting some of the prices down that are a little bit inflated. So it'll be good for everybody. I think people will start to loosen up on their prices a little bit. Sellers are going to be more reasonable. I'm feeling that right now.
Yeah, I think that's necessary. Prices coming down a little bit. But use this chart, show people this chart that tells the whole story, that tells that there's been a significant improvement recently in interest rates as we go into the next year. I wouldn't get anybody too excited about them going much further than this because we don't. And most predictions say it may drop a half a percentage point, but nobody's really saying, nobody serious is saying anything more than that. And that's the hope, that it drops, between 6 and 6.5 into that range is what we're hoping for.
Yep.
And no change in inflation because that's reported monthly, still at 3.4, still higher than they would like it to be, the Federal Reserve. And so we'll wait on that. That would be good news if that dropped into the 2s. And so we shall see. The absorption rate in the Portland Metro, 2.7 months of inventory indicates a seller's market. But 2.7 is pushing up against 3. That's the boundary between a seller's and a balanced market. But it is still a seller's market. And when you throw in the shortage of inventory, it is definitely a seller's market in the Portland, Vancouver Metro. And no change yet. I'm very anxious to see the next quarterly affordability index and see if we get a number better than being able to buy 84% of the median house. We'd like to get that number closer to 100, ideally over 100, so that buyers have more options. And the Economist report. That's last week's message, but I did put a new pending sales and lower interest rates. And Kuhn will tell us about that.
Yeah, let's see what the Economist had to say. NAR released a summary of pending home sales data showing that December's pending home sales rose 8.3% from last month and increased 1.3% from a year ago. This would be the highest since July of 2023. It's great news.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, just the chart, as you can see, there was an increase in pending home sales. Pending sales represent homes with a signed contract to purchase but have yet to close. They tend to lead existing home sales data by 1 to 2 months, which makes sense. It takes about 1 to 2 months to close once you go under contract. 3 of the 4 regions showed increases from a year ago. Luckily, we're one of the 3. We had an increase of 1.5%.
Wow.
So the only area that had a decline was the Northeast with a decline of 3.9%.
Okay.
The chart shows that. As you can see, the West, there was an increase from last year. From last month, 3 regions showed increases in contract signings. The Northeast had the only decline of 3%. The West had the biggest increase in contracts, 14%. That's great. We had the highest.
Yes.
The U.S. pending home sales index for December was 77.3, which was the highest since July of 2023. November's pending sales figures revised to 71.4. December's contract signings bring the pending index below the 100 level mark for the 21st consecutive month. The 100 level is based on a 2001 benchmark and is consistent with existing home sales above the 5 million mark. So that's good news. We're trending in the right direction. Pending sales are increasing from last year and the previous month.
Very
Let's keep
good
that-
news.
Yeah, let's keep that going.
Yes. Yes. Okay, thank you. Back to this. Get back to this. Okay. Nick, can you see your screen?
I can.
Well, how's the market in Portland?
We are seeing decreased home prices as interest rates are slowly starting to drop. Portland is currently a balanced market. Average days on the market is up to 60 days from 55, with 2.7 months of inventory. The median home prices have decreased 3% over the last year from 548,000 to 532,000. So it's just a little bit more affordable. The interest rates are currently 6.63 and are expected to fluctuate over time or go down a little bit over time here. It's a great time to invest in real estate as it helps you move up in the world.
Excellent. That's what we all want.
Yes.
All right. Shauna, how are things in Clark County?
Clark County, we are seeing stable home prices as interest rates are slowly starting to drop. Southwest Washington continues to be a seller's market due to shortage of available housing. Average days on market is up to 57 from 52 with 2.7 months of inventory. Median home prices have held steady over the last year at 525,000. Interest rates are currently 6.63 and are expected to go down slightly over time. This is a great time to list. Don't wait. Let's get it on the market now.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, excellent. And let's just skip down. I just want to show you that. Okay, and Accelerate started. Accelerate started February 5th. And I'll go ahead and post the next one. I believe there's one in March. And the same with the virtual list. There should be one in March. 21-day challenge. They haven't announced one yet. And remember that there is MoxieWorks support here. There's the Century 21 MoxieWorks and the direct to MoxieWorks support. And check out the social media playbook. And as long as I'm talking, I'll say something about the social media and the video. Because I finally have come to terms with it. Of why that's the #1 recommendation from corporate is that individual agents make videos of themselves talking similar to what I'm doing now and post those online on a regular, constant basis. And what I realized was, looking at the past, how we did things in the 50s, 60s, 70s, that is the direct equivalent of floor time today. We don't do floor time for the most part. And if we do, it is not very productive, certainly not what it was back in the 1950s. It's just an exercise today, and it's been that way for a very long time. So the modern equivalent of floor time is posting a video. So what happened when you did floor time? It's nice.
You just, yeah, you sat there and waited for the phone to ring.
Sat there, waited for the phone to ring. Somebody would dial it with a circular dial, or somebody would pull up in a 1952 Hudson and walk in and say, I want to buy a house or I want to sell my house. And what would you do? You would now be tasked with making a quick presentation. You know, my name's John. I sell real estate. I've been here for so long. I work these neighborhoods. I know these neighborhoods. I know the interest rate, all of these things. You'd have to make that quick presentation. And since that person is not coming in the office anymore and you're not sitting at the desk anymore, you still have to present to them. You still have to do that. And that's what those videos are for. So think of it that way. If that helps you understand the concept of why we're doing those videos, it's the only way to reach people.
Right.
Now, let's talk about real estate. And it's a good time to talk about inspections.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to flip this around. There we go. All right. What's happening with inspections?
Well, I always think it's good to review why we're doing them and what we're doing and that type of thing. Inspection is probably one of the most important things that we help guide our clients through. So this is an interactive type discussion. So anybody who would like to jump in and talk, any recent things that have happened in their inspections and share how they overcame them, or if they were, something that they had to deal with. The reason we need to do full home inspections and additional inspections. So it's like pretty much a no-brainer, but we do our inspections so that when the person buys a house, they know what's wrong with it. It doesn't actually mean they're doing an inspection to get everything fixed. And that's kind of a mindset that I think that we need to take when we bring our buyer into the inspection. It's a nerve-wracking time for everybody, the seller, the buyer, the agents, everyone. It's probably my most unfavorite part about the job is the inspection, but that is where you really can help your client. And I always admire the agents that can really go through it slowly and not try to rush, because this is where you can show your expertise, directing them to the right people. So we are gonna do a full home inspection, obviously, and that is going to be from about $400 to $800, depending on the size of the home, the age of the home. Those older homes are gonna cost more money because they're harder for the inspector, and the inspector is gonna have a longer report. I don't know, what's the longest report that you've ever received on an inspection? How many pages? Does anybody I've seen them over 100, not very often. Usually they're around 40 pages or so.
I've certainly seen 100 pages. And maybe
Yeah.
maybe they charge more because they give you such a big, thick report.
There you go.
It's time consuming, and inspectors need to be paid for their time too. But they usually tell you that right up front, right? You're gonna know the cost of that inspection ahead of time based on the age and the square footage of the home. So $400 to $800, and you can help them find that inspector. A lot of times they would like that assistance, or you can have them research and find their own. So that is their choice, and I highly recommend you let them know that. Never just allow somebody to waive their inspection. It's a rarity that it happens. I think I've only had it happen maybe 1 or 2 times in my whole career, because even if they don't hire an inspector, they do go through it. Maybe they're a person who is really educated and can do that themselves. But for the most part, people are going to hire their inspector. And what are some situations where you may have had somebody waive their inspection?
Working with contractors on a home.
Mhm.
Correct.
They knew what they were inspecting, right?
Yeah, that actually happened on one that you referred to me. With your people that you had, I think, Grant. So it does happen. What's a good thing to do when they do want to waive it? There's something I think everybody should do, is to get it in writing that you advise them to get one somehow. Whether you save it in an email or a text or however you want to do it, there's a form that you can have them sign in Washington that says, you should get an inspection.
Well,
So-
I do want to speak to that just quickly. It is company policy that if your buyer is not going to get an inspection, agents and brokers talk to your principal broker and discuss that very thing. We do need something in writing. And is there a form? Did you say there's a form for it, Shauna?
Yeah, there is in Washington. It's called for your protection, get a home inspection.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. So if we don't do that, then if there's a problem, it can be problematic for the company, because it's such an outrageous thing. You didn't get an inspection, and they're going to say, well, no, the realtor said I don't have to. That's what people do.
Yeah,
So yes,
definitely.
talk to your managing broker if somebody wants to waive the inspection. And if it's a builder or a contractor, that's kind of the one situation where I'd say it makes sense.
Yes. Absolutely. It is the only time that I've ever done it, is when it is an investor who, that's their line of work, is they go in and they fix up houses and sell them. So other than that, I really would not allow for that to happen. So the common inspections that we have that come up at the time of inspection, usually we go ahead and have a sewer scope and radon testing. Here in Vancouver, we do both of those usually with our home inspection. Most inspectors will give you a discount if they perform those, if you do them at the same time. So if it is a 2020 house and it's been lived in, your seller may, or your buyer may decide they don't want to do a sewer scope. Any other circumstances, usually you would probably urge that they do. If it's an older house that has a lot of trees, things like that, you're gonna want to, even if it's working right. So what happens if they buy that house and then they get transferred and have to move in a year? They're gonna be mad at you if their buyer comes in and says there's root intrusion all over the place and we want $5,000 to get this fixed. So that's the thing that, or it could be even worse. It could be even worse because if those lines are way down in the ground, it's going to cost a lot more than $5,000 to get it fixed. So this is something that it costs what, $125 maybe to get the sewer scope done, and it is just a peace of mind for your buyer that they're moving into a house that they're not going to have a problem with.
Yeah, I
So
think that's the easiest one of all, the sewer scope, because you know, the house is not it's not priced to have hidden damage. It's not priced because there's $5,000 or $10,000 of hidden damage in there. It needs to be revealed. It's just not fair. People do it and it happens, and it's a really bad thing that's easy to avoid.
Yes. So in the sewer scope, there's things that come up, and sometimes the seller is unwilling. I feel like even if nothing is done, just being aware of it is better than not being aware of it at the time of purchase. Sometimes if it is like way down there and it's flowing good and the scope reveals that there's like a belly. Sometimes that's the thing that comes up, a belly, they call it, where there's just a dip in it. And so there's some pooling there. And obviously they can't dig it up very easily and check it out. And sometimes you may your buyer might decide to move forward if seller's not willing to do anything. So we've had lots of experience with that. And if that comes up, you know, talk to somebody about it if you've not had that come up. A lot of times if there's some root intrusion and it's very obvious, it's a tree. Sometimes the tree is already gone, but the roots are still there. They cut the tree down because they knew it was a problem, but those roots are still in there, and they do a thing where they can just burr those out and foam it. So sometimes that the seller is willing to do that to fix it. But those are things that you just need to be aware of, and it's good to know. And it seems like every decade I work in this business, there's more there's more inspections that become a regular thing. We haven't always done sewer scopes and radon testing, but mostly we do now. Radon testing is another one that's area specific. Have you guys ever looked at the maps that show where radon has been detected more than other areas? Because even within your own county, you can see a difference usually.
How's your county? How's Clark County?
We have a lot in the southwest portion of Clark County, and hardly ever see it in Cowlitz County. So you can see in different areas, there's a lot less. Another thing to think about with radon testing, if there is a basement, a full basement, you're almost always going to want to test that, because that's where you see the radon come up through the house, because there's no venting. Newer homes with good crawl space and ventilation, probably not going to have a problem with radon, no matter where it's at. But then again, it's a pretty easy test to pay for and just know ahead of time, because it is a cancer-causing gas, and you don't want to ever be responsible for somebody thinking that you didn't help them through that part of it. So you at least need to offer that. And I always send an email, a text, or something just to say, just to make sure that I document that I did, in fact, tell them that they should do that if I feel they should, so.
What's another issue that would come up at resale for a buyer? So if a
Mhm.
buyer is for some reason unconcerned, then the next person that comes along might be concerned, and it could have already been dealt with. It could have already been paid by the seller the first time,
That's right.
because it
I'm
is
look-
fixable. People, I don't think people understand that it's a relatively easy fix if you have it.
It is. It doesn't, I mean, the last one I did was under $2,000 and the seller paid for it because it was a concern. So, I mean, it's not that hard to put a machine in there and test it for a couple days. I have a client right now who I'm waiting to get their stuff scheduled. They're like, we don't think we need it. It's probably, and they're probably right. But I said several times to them, well, if there is radon, then the seller may pay for it. And I've just let them know that this is something that may come up later if they decide to move again. So exactly what we have to do.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does everyone feel about if you're representing a buyer? Obviously, I always tell my buyers, especially if they're looking to buy in Multnomah County, to have a sewer scope done. And where I was going with this, how do you feel in an offer asking for the seller to contribute towards sewer scope?
I feel like you should be in complete charge of those inspections as a buyer.
Right.
I agree.
And how about who pays for it? I think we tend to ask the seller to pay for it.
But specify who is doing it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He asks who does it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. You're in total control of who's inspecting because the inspection is for the buyer. And then you reveal that it's radon, and the first place you would go is say, oh, there's a defect in your house. You probably didn't know it, but you didn't price it, including that defect. So the expectation is that the seller will remedy the defect.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Well, and that kind of brings us to the next ones too, because septic and well, it's different everywhere you go. In Oregon, I found that like the seller may pay for both of those and have those done. In Washington, we always, as buyers, do the well test and expect the sellers to do the septic. And so it's different everywhere you go. Septic inspections are required by the county usually. But there's a lot of other stuff that come in that if you have your own inspection, I have buyers on my listings who have done that and they found things like the cracked top, the cement thing, they want that back. Those are things that are not, the seller's not going to tell you. So always, make sure that you give your buyer the opportunity to be present, at least at that septic inspection if the seller is performing it. In Washington, we have a box that says that the buyer has the right to be there. And if they check that, the seller has to inform us of when they're going to be there. Now they give you a window of like a day. So that's not always convenient and let's say 90% of the time, the buyers are not present during the septic inspection, but if there's any concern at all, then maybe have the buyer do that themselves as well. I think I would if I was buying a house. And the well test, in fact, I just had one. I just had a buyer, it just scared me so bad. Call me, they just bought $1 million house out in the country. And they said there's black stuff coming through and it was just, and we have no water. It's just dripping and it's got a bunch of black sludge and they just got disconnected and they ended up getting it fixed for pretty easily. But even after you do a well inspection, and I was thinking in my head, okay, we did all these inspections. We made sure that we did all these things. Can you imagine how I would have felt if we skipped that? And because they did have current information there, but we still opted to do our own because it's the smart thing to do. And yeah, don't ever skip that. Having your buyer run out of water is one of the most scariest things that can happen after they move in. And it's only been a couple months. So that would have been really horrible if we wouldn't have gone through and done all of those things. I really have a lot to say about mold inspections, but I'll keep it short. My own personal experience. I've had it every place I've lived. It's just something that we have in the Pacific Northwest because we have houses that were built without a lot of ventilation. So we're always seeing that in the attic. It's nothing to be afraid of. We can get it fixed. There's companies. In fact, I think what we should do is one of these times soon is have Brandt from Mold Eaters come out and give a presentation. He gives a really good presentation. These people not only find the mold, but remove it and then fix the problem. And they can do anything. I've had them match shingles on the roof to just look really great. So that there's a lot of it's a big relief knowing that you have a company that will be honest about it, not charge a ton of money, and get those things done completely. And it doesn't matter what kind of house it is. I moved into a brand new home, and we were alerted to the fact from a drainage person that there may be some mold in our brand new house. And yes, we called Mold Eaters. They went under there. I said, you guys, I've gotten all different information. The builder says there's no mold. One of the drainage people we called says there's mold. I just need somebody to tell me what's going on down there. They went down there, and yes, there was mold. They had to remove all of the insulation in that house under there and reinstall it. So if I would have not just took that extra step, I wouldn't have known. Sometimes if the person is highly, highly allergic to mold, which happens, and I've had people do that, they're going to have Mold Eaters or somebody come and test for mold at the time of the inspection. And guess what? It doesn't cost anything. It's a free service that they provide. They go to the house and look and see if they can see any signs of mold. And if they're so good at it that they usually can smell it the second they put their head into the spaces. So they're going to tell you if there is or not. And that the seller can take care of. Again, that could be anywhere from $800 up to $5,000 if they're removing all the insulation. But that is a cost I think the seller should incur if your buyer, does their diligence and checks for it.
Oh, I think so. It's another hidden defect that's not included in the price. Boy, things have changed. I remember this whole mold issue came up 10, 15 years ago. And in those days, there were a lot of people, a lot of contractors who were not very honest about it. And were scrubbing down walls and testing, and there was no standardized testing back then. And the EPA website said, yeah, you just spray bleach on it and wash it off. That's all you have to do. It's a natural thing, and it's everywhere, especially in a rainforest that we live in. Mold is everywhere. Some people are allergic. Some people are more sensitive. That's very true. But it looks like we've moved past that for the most part, that that we and especially in the real estate industry, we kind of understand what the remedies are. You don't, in my opinion, you don't have to do much of an inspection for mold other than to go up and look for it, because it's obvious. If you have it, it's there, you see it, it's black, that's mold. And it's usually in the attics. And so you clean it off, and I think they're spraying it with bleach or something like that. It's as simple as that. And then once it's gone, you deal with the reason for the mold is there's too much moisture in there. So you deal with the ventilation. So as realtors, we've really worked this out and gotten to a much better place than we have been in years past. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's perfectly normal. If you have it in the shower, that's probably a ventilation issue too, or maybe a maintenance issue.
Yeah. That one listing I have, I saw some mold in their shower, so it could be a leak from the ceiling because it's up in the top part too. So, yep, it's just not as scary. I remember at a certain point in time when we first started this, there were some companies out there that were charging a lot of money.
Oh, it's
And
terrible.
yeah, it
was
was
terrible.
scary.
And they had very official stamps and certifications when there were no certification, organizations whatsoever. That was their own certification, expert in mold. Yeah.
Yep, we've come a long way and but there's also a lot, I mean, there's a lot that we can look, that can go wrong in inspections. And remember, when you see something, if your inspection, this is important, if your inspection notes something else, the inspector thinks there might be a problem with the roof, you can write an addendum and get more time for additional inspections. We have forms that are built into ours in Washington, but in Oregon, I know they're pretty cut and dry for the time frame, but you can get everybody to agree to more time. And if you feel like you need more time to investigate, then certainly ask for it.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's all I.
I guess one other thing I would say is know your inspector. Now, you have an obligation to recommend a couple of inspectors and to encourage your client to go seek their own inspector. But remember, they're relying on you, so have a pet inspector where you understand their reports and you're comfortable working with their reports and having your buyer look at those reports because they're all over the place. I just looked at one the other day and it had no summary. So you have to flip through 100 pages and look for things, and at least they were in red, but any areas of concern were in red. So you had to flip through. But I always liked inspectors that gave a summary right in the front and listed 20 items, and the first 3 were in red because he recommended those be dealt with. And then the others were just items of concern. I always thought that was more helpful than making somebody go through 100 pages.
Yes. And then there's the skill of writing the inspection. Maybe we can save that for next week.
The characterization, oh my, I've never seen a house like this. That'll kill
And how to be very, very careful with your wording and make sure everything is clear when you're writing those responses.
Yeah. That's the important thing. The inspector has to have some finesse. And there's a lot of good inspectors out there.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Learned a lot today. So I appreciate everybody, and let's look forward. We got a lot of things coming. We got lower interest rates coming. We got more buyers coming. We got more sellers coming. We got sunshine coming. It's gonna be a great year.
Nice.
It is.
All right, so we're here for you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.